Hi everyone, John Cottrell here of MBODY Yoga. This is soft flow yoga. It's a 60-minute gentle yoga practice. So for our practice today, I've called it outer hips. And that's exactly what we're going to be focusing on, our outer hips. Kind of outer hips kind of in this area and even kind of in the thighs a little bit. Those are just parts of the body that can often get ignored. So we do need some props today. The first thing you might even notice off to the side here is a chair. So I'm just going to be using that for balance. So I'm going to be balancing on one foot. So if you have a chair nearby or if we're standing near a wall or table, that's perfect. And of course our other props that we'd like to use, a nice soft blanket or towel that you can sit on and kneel on. Now we will need a strap, okay, a yoga strap or a belt, jump rope, something like that that you can use for the practice today. We also like to use a couple of yoga blocks, which I have here. So if you've got some yoga blocks, 2 of those would be great, or a couple of hardbound books, some nice thick ones, and maybe a pillow, a nice cushion. Here's my bolster I like to have handy just in case we like to use it. All right, let's go ahead and begin. And as always, we will start in a comfortable seated position. I like to sit with my legs crossed in half lotus. You can certainly sit like this or just any other cross-legged position that feels comfortable for you. If this isn't comfortable for you, you can always extend one leg or both legs. And if you need a little extra back support, that's why actually you might want to sit on a pillow or a blanket or cushion. Or if you need extra back support, maybe sit in a chair or up against a wall. And once you have found that comfortable seat, make sure you are sitting up nice and tall. You might even start with a few deep breaths, a nice full inhale. You can inhale through your nose and exhale through your nose or even out through your mouth. One more time. A nice full breath in and exhale. Just a way to establish a connection to your breath. And then just continue with slow, steady breaths here. Feel free to keep your eyes open. You can just gaze forward, even down at the ground, or you can close your eyes as we go through this first part of our practice. I like to call it our breathing meditation. It's an opportunity to kind of set the stage for our practice, to set an intention, and just be mindful. So just continue with your slow, steady breaths, listening to the sound of your breath. Notice how your body is responding to your breath, and that can simply feel like the breath moving your chest up and down, even your belly in and out. As we sit in stillness, you can set your personal intention for your practice today. It could be anything at all. It doesn't have to associate with the movements that we're doing necessarily, but just as a whole, your yoga practice as a whole can be oriented to what you're needing, mindfully, in your heart. Good. And just to bring a little bit more awareness to the breath. As you inhale, just feel the air rising upward to fill your lungs. So that does take some effort. So a nice inhale, feel the breath rising, feeling that expansion across the chest. And as you exhale, as you're able, you want to draw your navel inward towards your spine. Just a little pull inward. Not too strongly, not too forcefully, just enough just to notice something happening here. Again, a nice inhale, feel the lengthening of your spine, so sit up as tall as you can in your seat. Again, breath rising to fill your lungs. And your exhale, draw your belly in. It's a light contraction of your abdominal muscles, drawing in toward your center body. Continue with these sensations. Wonderful. Go ahead and take 3 more breaths like this. And after those 3 breaths, we'll add a very simple movement, just moving into our moving meditation. Take your time when you're ready to move. Just inhale and extend your arms out across the room like you're going to reach for the walls, then all the way up like you're going to touch the ceiling. That's your in-breath. And exhale, extend your arms out. Once again, feel as if you're going to touch the walls on either side of you, completing the exhale when you bring your arms back down by your side. And again, inhale, reaching out with good effort, all the way through your fingertips, reaching upward. Feel that stretch quality. Exhale, extend, reach, touch those walls, all the way back down. Now go ahead and continue at your own pace. You don't necessarily need to move with me. You want to follow your breath. You want to feel as if the breath is moving you, if that makes sense. Rather than moving the arms and then you breathe, you want to breathe first. That's what initiates the flow of the body. A few more times like this. Now, if you happen to be moving in slow motion, just notice the sensations that arise in your body. Notice how this feels in your shoulders. Nice extension through the arms, even that lengthening down through the sides of your body. Continue to feel the breath and listen to the sound of your breath. Finish the breath that you're on and take 2 more. Take your time, and when you're complete, you can just bring your arms back down by your side, come to stillness, and just feel the body relax. While still seated, just want to bring your hands behind you. Maybe just prop yourself up onto your fingertips like this. As the arms come back, the shoulders also move back, but you want to engage your back muscles to help draw the shoulders back. So as you're able, maybe you'll roll the shoulders back and then squeeze towards center. You want to imagine that you have a pencil right along your spine and you try to hold on to the pencil. But it does take some effort. It engages your rhomboid muscles. Those are the muscles that run right between the shoulder blades. You're going to tip your chin up just a little bit, just like this. Now we're ready. Now inhale, press into the floor with your fingers. Feel that energy shoot up the arms, right up to the shoulders. Again, breathing in to fill up your lungs. Exhale, draw belly in, maybe a little bit more strongly, and also squeeze your shoulder blades together. We're just adding a little bit more sensation to our bodies in this posture. Fill up your lungs, inhale. Exhale, draw belly in and engage your upper back. We're just creating a mild back bend in this seated posture. Take 2 more breaths. Once again, just notice the engaged body. And now we're going to disengage. Just lower your chin so you're looking directly forward. You can just soften the body, walk your hands toward yourself. You can let your arms rest in your lap. Notice how the shoulders relax. Take a breath. Since that was our back bend, let's take a forward fold. If your legs are crossed here, you might want to uncross the legs so we can come to cobbler's pose. That's a nickname. The formal name is bound angle pose. Bound is because we're going to be holding on to our ankles or shins. The angle, of course, is just the bend in the knees. It's okay if there's space between you and the floor right here. You can just let the legs just kind of hang open, but you can also provide a little comfort by placing your pillows or books or blocks underneath like this. What it really does is, because the legs are on something, it just sends a signal to your brain saying, oh, my legs are resting on something, they can relax. They don't feel like they have to engage. So we have our blocks in place, holding onto your ankles, and just sit up as tall as you can. We're going to inhale and just feel the lengthening of the spine. Exhale, draw belly in, which is a way to support the body now in motion. We're going to hinge forward just a little bit, leading with the heart and chin. Just keeping this nice straight line as best as you can through the spine. We'll do that again. Inhale, keep lengthening at this new angle. Exhale, draw belly in, hinge forward just a little bit. Now you can stay just like this. What we want to create is some sensation, Not too strongly, maybe a light stretch that's happening in the inner thighs. You can certainly go a little deeper, but to do so without compromising the body and it doesn't feel like you're stressing the body, and keeping within that working parameter of 50 to 70%. So you're not forcing your body into these poses. So here you might lower your chin, let your back round a little bit. It just creates a little bit more space. So you can go a little lower and deeper, but still be working within that parameter. With the curvature of the spine, it also produces sensation in your back, perhaps. So just notice what's happening in your back. A few more breaths in our bound angle pose. Just a little stretch and engagement in the inner legs. And as our practice progresses, we'll do a little bit more of this, but we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the outer hips. All right, 2 more breaths. And after that second breath, if your back is rounded and your chin is lower, just lift the chin so the neck is in the same alignment as the rest of the spine. That'll start to lengthen the spine. And then just hinge your way up. You can even use your hands, press into the floor to help guide your way up until you are nice and tall in your seat. And just return to stillness for a moment and take a breath. Alrighty. Let's make our way to our hands and knees. So we'll set our blocks up to the side here and just carefully maneuver the body so you can come to your hands and knees. This is where you might want to use your blanket or towel or even a doubled up mat. You can even roll out 2 mats, one on top of the other, to provide a little more support as needed. So here we are on hands and knees, moving through cat and cow poses. So we start with cow, which is an inhale. We lift the head, look forward. Feel like your heart is moving forward. At the same time, your pelvis tips back, allowing the belly to drop, creating a back bend, a little U shape or a bowl shape in the back. That's the inhale. Then exhale, tuck your tailbone under, pelvis tucks under. It's a posterior tilt. The back rounds, your belly button pulls up towards spine. That's with some effort, chin towards chest. That's it. That's that's cat. Inhale into cow pose, tip the tailbone away. Belly drops, heart opens. There's our back bend. Exhale, round it all out. And just continue at your own pace, moving through this undulated spine effort. Wonderful for your whole back. Great for your hips and pelvis. Creating and maintaining good mobility. We certainly want to stay pretty mobile in our joints, and that's a pretty major one. Now we're going to do something that will start to get into our outer hips here. But first, just a few more breaths. Now, since we are on our hands and knees, this can put a lot of pressure on the wrists, so we'll take a quick break. So maybe 1 more breath in and out. And then we'll move into what I call half hero, which is just tucking the toes and just starting to sit back until you have no weight on the hands. So you can do this. So your hands are now free, and you can maybe do a counter pose with the wrists because they've been flipped up like that with pressure, and you want to flip them the other way with light pressure to help get that counter stretch. I like to do a couple light pulses on the backs of my hands here on my blanket, not too hard. And another thing that really helps me is just kind of wiggle my fingers. It just gets all those ligaments moving through this area. All right, back out onto our hands and knees. I'm going to turn to face you, okay? I'm even going to move my blanket forward just a little bit here. And so we're going to get into the hips. Let's see if I can get aligned nicely here. So you can see I brought my knees together and I'm taking my hands kind of wide here, really for balance. Because what we're going to do is we're going to send a hip way off to the side like that. Now for me, that does kind of target the outer hip. And what I like to do is just kind of move forward and back as a way of massaging that area. And I'll just stay there for several breaths. That feels really good to me. And then back up to center and take in the other side. And you can certainly just go side to side or just stay with one side and work that area, or just whatever feels good. And even add other movements. You might just do circles, forward and around and back. Make sure you're going both directions. Again, just getting into the hips a little bit, but mindfully aware of those outer hips. Mine have been kind of tight lately, so this is really benefiting me. And make sure you're breathing. Breathe into these sensations. Feels really nice. All right, take 2 more breaths. We're going to bring everything back to neutral. Just maybe step the hands in, maybe the knees a little wider. Let's go ahead and sit back briefly to that half hero. Tuck your toes, sit back. Again, maybe just circle the wrists, wiggle the fingers, that light pulse. And then we'll continue. So if you are using a blanket here, let's go ahead and crawl off the blanket. We'll set it to the side. Let's move to our downward facing dog. So you're going to start in this posture with our hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. But you may want to step the hands forward here, out from underneath the shoulders, spreading out your fingers pretty wide so you feel that stretch between each finger. Press or lean into the hands so you have that opening of the palms. Strong, straight arms. Look at the arms. Even feel like they're squeezing in towards each other, like you're holding on to something between your arms. Tuck your toes again. Another cat-cow flow. Inhale to cow, that's our back bend right here. Exhale, round it all out. Hold cat pose, feel the belly button pull up towards spine. Use that sensation and energy to lift your knees off the ground. Send the hips into the air. Of course, your hands are kind of pushing into the floor to help that full extension of the whole torso. Nod yes a few times, shake your head no, just to ensure that your neck feels loose here. Not going to spend too much time in down dog right here, so let's go ahead and step forward, right up to the center of your mat, or at least until your feet are flat on the mat underneath you. If your hands are way out front, you're just going to slide them toward your toes. Hold here for a moment just to feel the stretch down through the back and hamstrings. Then inhale, slide your hands up to your shins or knees until you come up halfway right here, where you form like a table. You're parallel to the floor. Be sure to keep a good bend in the knees. Your hamstrings and even lower glutes will automatically engage here to help hold you. And your belly is also automatically engaged, but you can even give that a little bit more effort. Now to stand up all the way, shift your weight into your heels so your toes feel light. You can tap them like this. Bend your knees like you're going to sit down into a low chair, lifting the chest a little bit so your back is still flat. Arms out to the side, and then stand up all the way. Just straighten the legs. Once you're tall, let's reach into the air to finish that line in the whole body. Exhale, bring your arms down to your side. And we've made our way to mountain pose. Take a moment just to roll the shoulders, since they get a lot of work just being in those postures, those plank poses, cat and cow, downward facing dog. And if you need to, you can wiggle the fingers and circle the wrists. We're going to go through our half salute to the sun. Again, that means we're just going to fold forward and then come right back up, taking our time. I'm just going to move my chair forward just a little bit. There we go. Mountain pose. Let's inhale, extend the arms out and up. Another nice stretch. Exhale, take your arms out to the sides of the room, bend your knees, and feel like you're going to sit back into the imaginary chair. So the toes feel light. Again, weights in the hips and heels. If you can, go slowly like this. You can bring the arms down as gravity takes over. Belly comes down towards thighs. Lower the head, release completely as best as you can. Inhale, slide your hands up to your shins or knees, just halfway lift, hold. Keep breathing. Continue standing, weight shift into the heels, bend your knees, feel like you're going to sit down, but lift the heart to look forward, spread your wings and float all the way back up to standing. Returning to mountain pose, or this is extended mountain pose. Then exhale, bring your arms down to your side. Very nice. All right, usually at this point we like to move into our variations of Warrior One. It's just a lunge with a very short stance, okay, and a different arm posture. Once again, starting in mountain pose. We're going to start with a softness in the knees. Just want to make sure you're not locking out the knees here. Start shifting your weight into your right foot. Press your right foot strongly, firmly into the floor. Remember this sensation because it's going to help when we get into some outer hip work, okay? Shifting to one side. You want to inhale, feel the lifting and lengthening of the spine. Exhale, draw belly in. I'm also leaning forward a little bit so my right set of toes are gripping the mat. My left foot should feel a little light. Lift the heel right there so the toes stay on the floor. And then just start tapping or stepping the left foot back until it just naturally stops right there. We're going to pivot or turn the leg out. Press that left heel down into the floor. Whole body shifts until you're centered. So you're pretty balanced on both feet. So we have a little bit of distance between the feet here. That's what we want. Place your hands on your hips. You're going to push your pelvis down like that while you feel the torso rising upward. We're just making a little bit more space across the belt line so you can turn to face mostly forward so you have some mobility and space in your hips. Now inhale, extend both arms straight up. Exhale, bend elbows to about 90 degrees, something like this. So this is the variation of Warrior One. A lunge, but not too much distance between the feet. Arms are up, but we've got the elbows bent. Couple breaths. Now inhale and extend the arms all the way up. Exhale, bring your arms back down. This time bringing your hands to your hips. We're going to lean forward, putting weight and pressure into the front foot so we can pick up that back heel, maybe even the toes, so you can step forward, return to the top of the mat with both feet, extending the entire body by taking both arms up into the air as you inhale. Exhale, arms return to your side. And just pause here. Feel free to shake things out if you'd like right there. And we'll just get ready for the second side. Nice and tall. Soft knees. Let's start shifting weight into the left foot now. Root into the floor. Press into the floor. Feel that leg engagement. Energy's over on the left side so the right leg feels a little lighter. We're leaning forward just a tiny bit. The gripping of the toes on that left foot should help. Right heel lifts. A little flexing sensation with the toes. Stepping the right foot back. Heel lifted. We're going to turn that leg out, pivot, and just plant that heel into the ground, shifting to center. Hands on hips here, push pelvis down as your torso rises up, making space and mobility so we can turn to face forward. Here's our inhale, extending both arms up into the sky. Exhale, bend elbows to 90 degrees. And here's our variation of Warrior One. Of course, we will be doing this pose again, but it's a second version where there's a more distance between the feet, a deeper lunge. You'll feel it a little bit more in the legs, and the arms will be extended. Now go ahead and inhale, extend your arms straight up. Exhale, arms come down, bring your hands to hips, lean forward. We got that weight into the left foot, picking up the right heel, step forward. And now one more in-breath, taking both arms up into the sky. Another nice stretch. Exhale, arms down to your side. Excellent. And just staying here, shake things out, roll your shoulders, check in with your joints. Alrighty, let's get into those outer hips while we're standing. This is where you want something to balance on, okay? Something for your hands. So I'm going to bring in my chair. I'm just going to bring it right in front of me here, just like this. This should work, okay? So you're still on your yoga mat, but something in front of you for both hands. Alrighty. So just as we set up for our variation of Warrior One, we're going to do a similar thing here. So I'm just softening my knees. Let's send weight over to the right foot, root into the floor, alrighty? I'm just going to step my left foot off to the side, just a little bit. Okay, put more pressure in the right foot here, okay? Flexing the left foot, and then see if you can take it out directly out to the side. Now this directly affects that outer thigh and the outer hip right here. This is why we wanted the balance. Okay, something, a wall, a table, a chair right here, so we can kind of lean into the standing leg and foot, lifting the other. It's a flexed foot there. You probably really feel this. You don't have to lift it too high, just to the point where you start to feel something. Let's go ahead and bring it back down, centered. You might even just pedal the feet a little bit or just shake things out after that balance. Alrighty, so relatively simple, but very in tune with what's happening with that outer leg. Okay, mountain pose, soft knees, start shifting weight now into the left foot. Feel like it's going straight down. Okay, so your center of gravity just kind of shifts to that left side. So we can just kind of step the right foot off to the side right there. Okay, ready to go. The foot's still on the floor, making sure there's enough pressure, there probably is pressure in the standing leg. And then flex the right foot and just see if you can just take it off the floor. Again, it doesn't have to lift too high. We've got the balance here of the back of my chair in this case, or a wall or a table. See if you can just hold this, keep the foot flexed. That just keeps the leg engaged. Now, not only is this leg working, kind of the outer hip, okay, outer thigh, but that standing leg is also working too, mainly because it was just out to the side. So it's still maybe slightly fatigued, so you might even feel that. All right, couple more breaths here. Very nicely done. And we're just going to bring it back down. That feels so much better. What you may want to do here is just like what we did on the floor on our hands and knees, just move the hips side to side. And maybe some circles. I'm just kind of doing like a half moon from one side through the back to the other side. You can even go forward if you like, a full round circle if you like. All right, I'm going to go ahead and set my chair off to the side. We're done with that. Go ahead and come back to mountain pose and we'll continue our flow, adding on. Once again, just soft knees. Here we go. Inhale, extend both arms up into the air, extended mountain pose. Exhale, spread your wings, go slowly, bend your knees, sit back and down into the imaginary chair. Feel that weight shift into the hips and heels with the arms out and this kind of leaning forward. Hopefully it helps you balance. Alrighty, this is a good balance workout right here. And we go a little lower, drop the arms, the head, the back will naturally round. You might touch your toes, but you don't have to touch your toes. My hands are right at the shins. Inhale, slide your hands up the legs to re-extend the spine, form that tabletop. Exhale, bend your knees a whole lot more. Your back will round. So you can get your hands on the mat out in front of you and just start walking or stepping both feet back and to the back end of your mat, something like this, and as best as you can, draw a straight line. This is plank pose. Hold here for a moment. Then we're going to bend the knees like you're going to kneel to the ground, but send your hips up into the air. It's that return to downward facing dog. Let's do something here while we're in down dog. You might want to take your hands out a little wider. This is like what we did on the floor on our hands and knees. We're just going to do it in down dog. Maybe the feet a little closer. You can bend the knees here and then see if you can just move the hips side to side. Just as we did before. It might feel a little different. It's just maybe targeting just a different area of the hips and the muscle areas. Those ligaments, those tendons. It also hits the arms just because we are in this upside down position. All right, let's go ahead and give this a quick rest. Bring the knees to the floor. Come back to our half hero just to get off the hands because we're going to come back to down dog and then continue that flow. Just want to give you an opportunity to rest. And you can do that anytime. Even if I don't prompt a resting moment for you in class, go ahead and always take a rest whenever you need to. Alrighty. Here we go. Hands back out, way out front. Spread out your fingers. Press palms flat into the ground. Strong, straight arms. Tuck toes, lift your knees and hips, and draw that straight line in the spine. Your hips go up. Chest comes down and your alignment here as your ears are kind of next to your biceps. Now inhale, pick up your right foot and extend the right leg back behind you, reaching. Exhale, let's bend this right knee. Bring this knee in underneath you towards your chest, shifting your whole upper body forward slowly until your shoulders are over the wrist. Check it out. Set the right foot down, just your toes, heel is lifted. Set the left knee onto the floor. Another opportunity to take some weight off the hands briefly. Use your free right hand. Go get your right ankle and foot. Pick it up and place it up higher on your mat. Replant this right hand. Lift the left knee behind you. Pivot or turn that left heel to the floor. Here, take the time to shift some weight into that back foot. It means moving the hips back that direction, stepping the hands back that direction, even rising up to fingertips to help extend your torso. So you are kind of drawing a line with the torso. It's out over this front leg. Now walk one hand, then two hands onto your thigh. Use that as a way to help lift yourself up until you're tall and perpendicular to the floor. We're moving to our second version of Warrior One. Now an inhale to take both arms out and up, and then just hold on the exhale. Now the arms are straight up this time, more distance between the feet, nice lunge, and with that back leg, the way that it's turned out, and with the torso facing forward, we're kind of hitting the front area of the leg here. Hip flexor, certainly connected to that outer hip, gets a little higher up just above the belt line as well. Let's breathe in. Exhale, turn slowly towards your left side of the room while your right knee maintains a pointing forward direction. Arms come down to parallel. You might need to adjust your feet. I like to turn that back foot out so this leg just feels a little bit more natural. Make sure, check in, even look at it. Be sure your right knee and your toes are pointing directly forward. Nice and tall up top. So this is our Warrior Two position. The shift forward, follow the right arm forward. It's just your upper body, not your lower half. Just a little shift of the upper body like so. If you have an angled upper body, rotate the arms. Reach right arm down, left hand reaching straight up into the air. You even feel like you're just opening up like this. Now this right arm, you can just brace it on the inner leg. You're just giving this a little nudge. You're giving your leg a little nudge, feeling like it's moving to the wall behind you. A couple breaths. I'm just going to lunge just a little deeper just to create a little bit more sensation. Even here, you still want to feel like you're working between 50 to 70%. This is a good 70% for me. Breathe in. Exhale. We're going to carefully release and turn and fold. Bring the arms or hands down to the floor. Rise up onto your tiptoes behind you. Plant the hands firmly into the ground. Full palm. Press, strong straight arms. Then pull or slide the right foot back. Plank pose. Feel free to take a moment to rest. You can come to a full hero or use that half hero. Alrighty? Just another opportunity maybe to relax the shoulders, elbows, wrists. Alrighty, since we're here, coming down here, let's add another pose. We are going to be doing the other side, but since we're on the floor like this, let's add another pose. So I'm just going to turn away from you for the moment, okay? I'm going to place a blanket on my left side. It's my left side, okay? You can do your left side or right side. And I'm going to slide my hips onto the blanket on the left side, right there. Both hands are on my left side here. My left hand is really being used to help prop myself up. I'm just pushing my hand or fingertips into the floor to help lift my torso. The right arm here is really just resting on my outer thigh right here. Inhaling to lift, straight up. Exhale, just a little turn. The whole body, really trying to turn from the lower region of the body. Just kind of imagine and feel just below the ribs, that's what's turning first. Really just another way to get into the hips a little bit. A couple more breaths. All right, since we're twisting to the left, we're going to walk our hands out away from the body to the left like this. And that should kind of get you disconnected and away from that rotation that we just did. And then crawl up to the top of the mat or whatever way you're facing like this. Okay, because I was facing away from you. I'm going to turn and face this way now. Moving the blanket out of the way. Now we are in our tabletop posture. Let's take cat and cow once again. Inhale, lift head and heart, arching the back. Exhale, round it all out. Do that 2 more times. Now, if you need to rest the wrist, go ahead and do so, because we're just going to do that same little hip sway or shift side to side. I'm taking the hands wider, bringing the knees together, and then that movement of the hips side to side, or whatever movement felt good for you. That could be those circles like this. But I know for me, mainly that side to side just feels really nice. So we're getting into those outer hips. All right, a couple more breaths. And we're going to do that whole section on the other side. So downward facing dog is our starting posture. So let's come back to hands and knees. Hands way out front, spread out your fingers. You might need to take the knees a little wider. Tuck your toes. Another cat-cow. Inhale. Lift head and heart. Exhale, rounding the spine, chin to chest. Remember to tuck your toes. And then lift the knees. Send your hips into the air. Feel the heart lower. Your head lowers. Your ears are right alongside the biceps. Spine is mostly straight. Hips are in the air. Soft knees. Inhale, let's pick up the left foot and extend the leg back behind you. It doesn't have to lift high, just see if you can get it as straight as you can. You're going to bend this left knee. Bring the left knee in underneath you towards your chest as you shift your whole upper body forward. Now your knee doesn't have to touch your chest at all, you're just bringing it forward. Shoulders over wrists. Let's set the left set of toes down, heel lifted. Set the right knee down. Pull the weight away from the hands. Free up the left hand. Let's go get the left foot, pick it up. Place it up a little higher on the mat. Replace this left hand. Relift the right knee. The weight is probably forward here, even as you plant that right heel into the floor behind you. That's when we want to pull the hips back, step the hands back to help that process. Rise up to fingertips, extend through the torso. Remember, you're extending out over this left thigh. We're rising. I like to assist the body by bringing both hands up to the thigh. Push. Remember, it's the mid-thigh, not your knee. Mid-thigh, that's a bigger muscle grouping, and then lift up until you're perpendicular to the ground. Inhale here, taking both arms straight up, hold on the exhale. Here is our Warrior One. Second version, more sensation, a good 60 to 70% in the posture. Ready for Warrior Two. Start with an in-breath. Exhale, turn your torso slowly to the right side of the room, being sure your left knee isn't moving, it's still pointing directly forward. Arms parallel to the floor. I'm going to adjust my back foot, just turning it out. That just feels better on my joints, hip and knee and ankle. Side angle, just shifting the whole upper body forward, like a little rib cage shift here. Reaching out with the left arm, rotate the arms. Again, feel free to stay up high, even high enough where this left hand can easily be placed on the thigh. Not too much weight, however. You want to feel the energy rise this way towards the sky rather than sink towards the ground. Okay, even though you are rooted into the ground, there's a lightness in the body as well. Again, working at 50 to 70%. So this is a good, for me, a nice 60% because I'm not going down too low. Let's breathe in. Exhale, here's our turn and fold. Hands out front so you can catch yourself with your hands lightly. Rise up onto tiptoes behind you. Press firmly into the ground with the palms, strong, straight arms, giving you strength and stability so you can slide that left foot back. Here's plank pose. Bring the knees to the floor, either half hero or full hero. Okay, take a moment for circling of the wrists. Okay, we're going to do that little sit off to the side. I just call it a mermaid pose, like a mermaid sitting on a rock on the ocean. Alrighty, so I'm going to face you for this one. You can use a blanket or a block, or you may not even need that support, because what's happening is you're just shifting off to one side. You can even just sit on the ground. The lower you go, the more the hips are displaced. So just notice how that feels for me, for you, because for me it feels a little uncomfortable. So I like to have a little prop, just something that gives me a little bit of a lift. So we'll go ahead and sit off to the other side. It'll be your right side perhaps because we did the left side, or whatever side you haven't done yet. Both hands are on that side of the hip that's sitting on the floor or prop. The back hand stays propped or pressing into the floor to help you stay lifted as tall as you can. You don't want to be leaning out like that, but kind of close and up. This free hand here is just on the outer thigh, just not to pull, just to hold yourself in place once you have rotated. So you're going to inhale and grow tall using that back arm. Exhale, draw belly in. Remember, you're trying to turn from this section below the ribs, like you're trying to turn your belly button in that direction. You may not turn very far, and then once you're in place, this hand on the thigh just holds you in place. Okay, you're not trying to pull yourself into a deeper rotation. You're just holding yourself to the rotation you've established. Okay, notice how this affects the hips. Maybe not so much the outer hips directly, okay, but it does affect the hips because of that displaced sensation. We have a little rotation here. That too can positively affect the hips. Just create some nice mobility. How about 3 more breaths here? And to come out of this pose, okay, we're just going to crawl away from the body out here. And then crawl up to wherever your knees are pointing, this direction like this. I'm just going to turn sideways again now. You can move your props out of the way and return to your cat-cow flow. Inhale to look forward, create the little back bend. Feel the mobility in the hips. Round it out in cat. This should feel really good, especially after that kind of that displaced hip posture, that mermaid sitting position, because this starts to put things back into their proper alignment. After having maybe done a little stretch. All right, come back to neutral. We'll do that same thing. Maybe take the hands a little wider. You can always rest the hands if you need to again. Bring the knees together. And that same shift of hip side to side. I really like the circles or that moving forward and back. It just feels like it's just giving the hip area a nice massage. Kind of right along the hip bone. Really getting into the attachments to the bone. So that's our ligaments, those tendons, you know, of course the muscles there too. And even just doing some of this, I can just feel some of that tightness move away. Alrighty, come back to neutral. We're going to take a seat here. Okay, sit back into hero just briefly. Go ahead and sit off to the side. Swing the legs around to the front. All right, maybe scoot forward so you're sitting in the center of your mat. You're going to roll down onto your back. We're going to get ready for our back bend. We haven't done our back bend yet. So roll down. Just make sure you've got your blocks handy. Draw your knees into chest. You can just catch the knees or shins with your hands. Maybe just a simple rocking. Left and right, forward and back, some circles. I tend to create figure 8s. That just feels good on the hips and low back area. And now that your feet are more free, you can even circle the feet, circle the ankles, flex and point, and if you can, wiggle your toes. All right, let's move into our bridge pose. You'll set your feet onto the floor. I like to take my feet a little wider than the hips. It just provides more space in my hips and back. Okay, your shins straight up and down as best as you can. You can't see them, but get a sense of the feet or your shins straight up and down. Now inhale to fill up your lungs. Exhale through the mouth. Feel the air leave. Feel the belly engage. And once you have that established engagement, lift the hips, slide your blocks underneath you or whatever props you're using, and sit. So here's our variation of bridge. It's just a supported bridge pose. Really just sitting on those props. You can actually relax here a little bit. Take some deep breaths and just feel the natural release through the whole front side of your body. And since the hips are lifted, you might feel this in the legs in a very gentle way. This is wonderful. Nice counter pose to sitting, because it's just kind of lengthening through that part. You just imagine yourself sitting in a chair and all the things that are just binding because of that folding posture. This starts to open things up, just stretch them quite easily and gently. This is all connected. So we did a little bit of inner thigh work earlier in the practice for that cobbler's pose or bound angle pose. It caught the inner legs. We certainly did a forward fold, so I got the hamstrings. We did our outer hip work so far, the leg extension out to the side, even those hands and knee position, just moving the hip side to side. And now here, just kind of getting the front side. Alrighty, one more breath. Now pressing feet into the floor so you can lift the hips, moving the blocks out of the way. You can just rest here. Now another thing we need is our strap. Now my strap isn't available to me at the moment, so you might need to carefully rise so you can go get your strap. Okay, so let's go get our straps or belts, whatever you've got, and come back down onto the back here. I'm going to extend my left leg out onto the floor, bring the right knee in towards my body, got my strap, and I'm going to wrap the strap around the sole of the foot, just like this. All right, and just extend the leg. Now don't worry if it doesn't go straight up. Okay, it might be kind of out in front of you, and it's okay if the knee bends. This is perfect because you've got the strap to kind of control where the leg is so it doesn't fall away from you. You got a nice hold. Alrighty, and just a light flex perhaps of the foot. Even that's probably more natural, but just because the strap is around the sole of the foot. You just want to carefully draw the leg like it's moving over your head just until you feel a light stretch perhaps in the hamstrings. Okay, of that right side, not too forcefully, just some breaths here. Now the work that we're going to do is going to get into that outer hip, but also outer thigh. Now pay very close attention to this. As your leg is extending up into the air, just notice your whole backside. It should be all, for the most part, connected to the floor. Your whole back, both hips, shoulders, etc. Okay, now what we're going to be doing with the foot in its strap, you're going to start to slowly take it across the body, across the midline, towards the left side of the room, very slowly. And while doing that, you might even take your right hand, place it on your right hip, and feel like you're trying to push that hip deeper into the floor so it doesn't lift away from the floor. If you start to feel it lift, that's when you stop. Alrighty, because this is the action that we're creating. We're creating a lengthening or stretch quality in that outer leg. If you can see me, if I took that whole right hip off the floor and send the leg across the body, okay, this is a totally different sensation. Now we will do this, but not just yet. Not just yet. So you want to still feel flat on the ground. Take the leg crossing the midline, making sure the right hip is still on the floor. 3 more breaths here. Okay, this is our starting point. What we're targeting is the IT band. This is just a big ligament right down the outer thigh leg area that can get pretty tight, either with exercise or even non-movement. Either way, they can get kind of bound up. Now, we're going to continue taking that leg across the body. The right hip will lift up off the floor. My foot might be going off camera here, but just a stretch. Now my leg isn't touching the floor at all, but I'm just maneuvering and holding onto it through this, with the strap in my left hand. So I have created a bit of a twist, and I'm getting more in that outer hip because I'm taking that whole turn of the leg. I'm even bending the knee a little bit. Ooh, yes, I really feel this. Okay, a couple more breaths. So hopefully you feel that change, or just feel the difference between taking the leg all the way across the body like we are now, or just the leg crossing midline by keeping hip on the floor. Okay, let's bring that leg back up, reconnect to the ground with the whole back side of the body, bend the knee, Let's release the strap and extend the leg out onto the floor so we can rest. And you can rest here as well. Take a couple of breaths here. So we're going to do the other side. 2 actions. Okay, while the right leg is on the floor, you can even flex that foot just to keep that leg active on the floor while we're working the left side. Bend the left knee, bring it in towards your chest. Let's see if we can lasso the foot with the strap and extend the leg up. And just hold on to the strap because that's kind of the control you have. It's like a leash around the foot here. Remember, creating a little bit of a stretch through the hamstring, not forcing it. Still feeling flat on the ground. Let's take a few more breaths here with this hamstring stretch. Both hips are on the floor, your whole back, your shoulders. And then when we're ready, we're slowly taking the left foot towards the right side of the room. I'm even holding onto the strap mostly in my right hand. It just feels a little bit better because we actually want to use the left hand to place it on the hip to make sure it's still connected to the floor. Now for me, this doesn't take much movement. My leg is barely across my body, but I feel this. I'm not going to go any further because I would force the sensation. Don't need to force it. I do want to feel it, but not overwhelm it. This is perfect for me. A couple of breaths, getting into that IT band. Like I said, this tends to get pretty tight on my body. You might be able to go a little further, but be sure to keep that hip on the ground. 2 more breaths like this. Now we're ready to lift that hip off the floor, taking that leg all the way across. Again, it doesn't have to touch the floor, but certainly much more towards the right side of the room. What I'm doing here for stability, my right elbow, it's bent and it's on the floor. And it's helping me to hold onto the strap, that leash around my foot here. But I'm starting to feel, yes, more in that outer hip, even the glute area on this left leg feels good. Some deep breaths. When you're breathing deeply in holding postures like this, you want to feel or just imagine the breath is actually going to these areas. Intend the breath to move into these spaces, intending to release them if they're tight, open them up, and even relieve any discomfort or pain. 2 more breaths. A lot of work here. And let's see if we can bring that leg back up. There we go. Let's bend the knee and we can release the strap. We're done with the strap, so you can set it to the side. Go ahead and extend the legs out onto the floor in front. You might even extend your arms behind you, creating our full body lengthening stretch. Helps to release the low back there too. Let's go ahead and bring both knees into chest, catching the knees or shins with the hands. Maybe circle the feet again, okay, just to give them some mobility since they were kind of trapped in those straps. All right, let's take a twist. Let's send both knees over to the left side. Both knees bent, sending them over to the left side while right arm extends to the right. Okay, again, it gets into the low back because it is a spinal rotation, but it too may target the hips a little bit. Some more deep breaths here. Now there's kind of a combination of feeling relaxed in this position, but there's also a little bit of engagement. The engagement is really just so you can hold yourself in place. Otherwise, you'd probably kind of fall or melt out of the pose. So there is, some engagement to help you be here. But kind of a releasing action or intention so that there's a nice stretch. 2 more breaths on this first side. And then we'll carefully come back up to center. You might even pause here in center for a moment. Just a nice realignment. And then slowly taking knees down to the right side. My blocks happen to be here, so it's perfectly fine to use those props.
So the legs don't have to touch the floor. You might just prop them up on a block, either on the underside of the legs or even between the legs. Creates a nice twist without over-rotating. And then the left arm extends out to the left side if that feels okay. Deep breathing here. Wonderful. So we've gone through a practice to help target those outer hips and, of course, even targeting other parts of the legs. So hopefully that brought you some relief and ease and even greater flexibility and mobility. Let's go ahead and return to center. Take your time. Hug both knees into chest. Feel that realignment in the hips. And when you're ready, you can set the feet down, then extend the legs and just make your way to Shavasana. So our ending pose here. Arms can just rest down by your side. Feel the whole body just relax into the ground. This is where you do want to feel the most disengagement as you can. So not flexing any muscles, not trying to hold yourself in place, but just letting the ground hold you. Slow, steady breaths. You're welcome to keep your eyes opened, softly gazing upward. You can also close your eyes. Breathe with intention. It can be softer, a little slower, but certainly be aware of the breath. The breath will help you to stay in the moment, stay very present. You're welcome to stay here as long as you like, especially if you feel very comfortable. No need to move right away. Just take advantage of this opportunity to be relaxed. Even as I end the practice and come to seated, you're welcome just to stay here, just lying down. And when you are ready to move, rather than moving too quickly, start with breath. Take 5 deep breaths. As you're breathing, just feeling movement, slowly return to your body. Just as we did earlier in the practice, the beginning of the practice, it's the breath that's moving you. Breath is moving you. And when you are ready to move, again, breath is moving you. Take a nice breath in, and with the exhale, you start to move. And maybe slowly and carefully roll onto either side of your body. From there, press and lift yourself up to seated. Take your time with all of this. Come to a seated position, sitting up as tall as you can here. And your arms can just stay relaxed in your lap, or your hands can stay relaxed in your lap with your arms down by your side. Or you can bring hands to heart center, wherever you are, taking one more breath in and out.
And with the close of our practice, we bow together saying, Namaste. Thank you so much for watching and participating in this yoga lesson. To help us with the channel so we can continue to bring you more content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's really appreciated. Namaste.